In this video we're going to be making an app in Visual Basic, which is basically a simple calculator. And you can see here you can type two numbers into the box. So I've got 12 and 4. If you want to add them together, you hit the plus sign. It gives you the answer 16. Take them away, you get 8. Divide them, get 3. Times them, 48. If you were to divide them by a silly number that won't go into the 12, it'll just round it up to the nearest number as well. Alrighty, that's not the most accurate calculator, and obviously nowhere near as good as the usual calculator you find on a computer, but it's just going to show you how you can start using some mathematical formulas in Visual Basic. So we'll pop over to Visual Studio Express, and we're going to start a new project. I'll just close this solution off. Alright, so up in the File menu, choose a new project, and Visual Basic from the left, and choose Windows Form App in the middle. The name you want to give this app, obviously Calculator, and choose a good spot in your documents to save it. As always, I'll save on my desktop just for the purpose of the video, but you should be saving somewhere in your documents folder in a suitable place. Click OK when you're ready to go, your app will load up, and we can start creating it now. Alright, so the first thing we want is a label. I'm going to put a little heading up top that says Calculator. So drag a label onto the page, change the text over here. From label 1, say, I might do it in capitals, Calculator. And now if you want, you can go up and change the font here, make it just a little bit bigger so it looks more like a heading. So I might go up to size 14 and make it bold. Doesn't look much like a heading, but better than what it was. Stick it on the left there for now. I just realised I made a spelling mistake, so let me just go back and switch the C and the L around. Calculator. That looks a bit better. Alright, we also need to give this a name, so scrolling down, look for the design section. LBL Calculator would be a suitable name for that. Okay, remember LBL stands for label. Calculator is just something meaningful to describe that label. Next thing we want to bring out is two text boxes where we can type our two numbers into. Text box 1 and text box 2. Okay, they don't need to be too big, but I'm just going to stretch them out a little bit so they go about the length of the heading. Clicking on the first text box that you dragged out, let's just scroll down and we'll give it a name. So instead of text box 1, let's call it TXT num1. Basically stands for text box number 1. Let's do the same for number 2. Give it a name. So click on it, TXT num2. So we've got our two text boxes set up. That was easy. Let's get our addition, subtraction, divide and multiply buttons put in now by using buttons from our toolbox. So simply drag out the first button, give it a name, btn add, and for the text on it, where it says button 1, you just want to put in the plus sign. And you can make that a little bit smaller, probably make it into the shape of a little square, like so. Now it is possible to copy and paste buttons in Visual Basic, so just press Ctrl-C to copy and Ctrl-V to paste, and you get another button. This time though, we don't want it to be a plus sign, so change the text to a minus sign. And the name, it's not going to be button 1, it's going to be btn subtract. Easy. Let's copy and paste that button and put another one next to it. This time, we'll call it btn divide. And going back up to the text, instead of a minus sign, put a forward dash or forward slash. And that's the symbol for a divide. And finally, we'll just copy that button, put it in at the end there. And it's going to be an asterisk. That's the time symbol on a computer. And the name of it will be btn multiply. Alrighty, so I'll just make these text boxes a wee bit smaller so they match up with the buttons. That's all looking pretty good. Let's resize this form now, dragging it in, and I'm also going to remain on this form and give it some names over here. So the text that goes at the top left of the form should say calculator up there, and the name of the form, instead of form 1, let's call it FRM calculator. Alright, so I've got everything named appropriately. I think we are good to go now with our coding. So we're going to start by clicking on this plus button. So double click on that. That brings up our code, and this one, well, this piece of code is going to handle when we click on button add. So when we click on button add, what do we want to do? Well, we need to read the two numbers from the text boxes and add them together. Okay, but before we do that, we need to do something just above that. So underneath public class, we need to read what the values are in these two text boxes. So these are variables that we're typing into these boxes, numbers that can be changed. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to write dim, which is declare in memory, and we'll write num1 for the first box. And we're going to declare it as an integer because we are writing numbers into the box. So our variable is going to be an integer. So whatever is written into this first text box now, its value is going to be stored in the variable num1. In the second text box, we'll do the same thing. Its value will be stored in a variable called num2. Okay, and the last thing we need to write here, which we can't see just yet, we're going to declare in memory a variable called total. And it's going to be an integer as well. And total is going to be what these two numbers either add, subtract, divide or multiply to. Okay, so now that we've declared these three variables, we're able to use them in our code below. Alright, so back into this section here. This is where we're doing the button add click. So when we click on the addition button, what do we need to do? Well, we need to write num1 equals text num1 dot text. So that's basically saying the num1 variable, which we declared up here, its value is going to be whatever we write into that first text box. Alright, same thing goes for number 2. So num2, its value will equal whatever text we write in the num2 text box. And the total now, so the total variable will equal num1 plus num2. So it adds together that variable, and that gives us our total. Okay, then we want to display our total on the screen. So the way we do that is we write in a message box. So message box dot show, open up some brackets and quotation marks, and we'll write answer colon space, and then outside of those quotation marks we're going to put the ampersand sign and write total. So that gets the total from over here and places it into our message box. Whatever the total equals will now appear there. Let's just test that and see if that works. We'll click start. Hopefully you've got this right. Let's drag this text box over here so you can see it. Let's do 2 and 3 as our numbers. If we press the plus sign, we get the answer 5. Okay, if we try any of the other buttons, obviously not going to do anything yet because we haven't coded them up, but we do get an answer with the addition button. So that's good, it's working. Now I just noticed our message box is a little bit empty. Okay, it'd be nice to have a header on it, maybe a little icon as well. So what I'll do after the word total is put a comma. And I'm going to put in some more question marks, and I'm just going to write answer. That's going to be a little header that appears at the top of our message box. After that, I'm going to put another comma, and I'm going to write message box. Oops, clicked out of that too quick. Message box buttons. And choose which buttons I want to appear in my message box. I just want the OK button. I don't want to have any options for the user, so I'll just click on OK. And the last thing I'll do is put a comma again and just write message box icon dot, and let's just put the information icon again, I reckon. And now when we run it, and we'll get an answer, we should have a little bit more of a professional looking message box. So we've got the header at the top that says answer. That's what we put in quotation marks there. We've got the information symbol, which is, or icon, which is that last bit there. And you can see we've got message box buttons running along here. We've got the OK button coming in, which is that one there. Alrighty, so that's done. That's our addition button all done. What I'm going to do now is just copy that text I put in. So from num1 down to our message box. Highlight it, press Ctrl C. We're going to reuse that code in just a moment. So back to our form, we're going to go over to the subtract button now and double click on that. And we get this new section of code up that basically handles when we click on our subtract button. So when we click on it, I'm going to paste in all of that code. So num1 equals whatever's written in the first text box, and num2 equals whatever's written in that second text box. The total, this time we're going to have to change it. So the total equals num1 minus num2, so not plus. And then message box will stay exactly the same. That's all we had to change, just that one little section there. Alright, let's go back to the form and do divide and multiply the same way. Just double click on divide. Down here we'll paste in that bit of code, and obviously the total is what we need to change. It's num1 divided by, so do the / num2. Alrighty, last one, multiply just here. So paste in the code, and it's going to be for total num1 times num2. So do a little asterisk there. Everything else is exactly the same. So there's our code. Just double check that you've got the same code as me. It's very simple, that one. Let's start it up and have a look and see if we can do that. Do all of those little buttons down there. So we'll put in maybe 16 and 4. I know they'll divide well. If we add them together, we get 20. Take them away, we get 12. Divide them, we get 4. And times them, 64. Looks like our calculator's working great. Now, as I said before, if you want to try and divide by some random number that won't go into 16, it's going to give you a whole number as the answer. Okay, it just rounds up. We're going to have a look at how we can do decimal points further on down the track, but for the sake of this exercise, we'll just keep it nice and simple. Okay, so that's our basic calculator all finished. Catch you in the next video.